What if I told you that you could measure the hidden fat around your organs, the same fat that raises your risk of heart disease, diabetes, and even stroke, without spending a single dollar and without stepping into a clinic? This isn't the fat you can pinch on your belly. This is visceral fat, the dangerous kind that surrounds your liver, pancreas, and intestines. Most people don't even know they have it until it starts causing serious health problems. Here's the shocking truth. Studies show that even people who look slim on the outside can carry high levels of visceral fat inside. In fact, more than 40% of adults worldwide are already at risk. And because it doesn't show up easily in the mirror, it often goes unnoticed. But here's the good news. You can perform a simple at-home test to estimate your visceral fat right now, without equipment, without cost, and without guesswork. And that's not all. After the test, I'm going to walk you through 3 powerful natural ways to lose visceral fat safely from home. No expensive supplements, no extreme diets, no complicated workouts, just proven, practical methods that you can start today. So don't skip this video. In the first few minutes, I'll show you exactly how to measure your visceral fat at home. Then I'll guide you through step-by-step remedies that not only shrink this hidden fat, but also improve your energy, balance your blood sugar, and protect your heart. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, have you ever tried to measure your waist to hip ratio, or do you usually rely on the scale alone? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this channel is all about science-backed health solutions you can trust. Now let's start with the simple zero-cost test you can do today to estimate your visceral fat levels. Then we'll dive into the 3 natural remedies that can help you lose it for good. Understanding visceral fat and why measuring it matters. When it comes to health, people often focus on what they see in the mirror. If someone notices fat around their belly or thighs, the instinct is to think about losing weight for appearance reasons. But there is another type of fat inside the body that most people do not notice until it becomes a health problem. This is called visceral fat. Unlike the fat just under your skin, which is called subcutaneous fat, visceral fat collects around your organs such as your liver, pancreas, and intestines. Because it surrounds these vital organs, it has a very strong effect on health. Everyone has at least some visceral fat. In fact, a small amount is normal and even necessary because it helps cushion organs and protect them. The problem begins when visceral fat levels increase beyond a healthy range. Unlike subcutaneous fat, which might bother someone because it affects appearance, visceral fat is linked to higher risks of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, stroke, and even certain cancers. Researchers often refer to it as hidden fat because you cannot simply look in the mirror and know how much you have. 2 people may look similar on the outside but carry very different levels of visceral fat inside. This creates an important question. If visceral fat is so harmful, how can we know how much we have? Medical technology can provide answers. CT scans and MRI scans are considered the gold standard for measuring visceral fat. They can give a very precise picture of fat inside the body. But these scans are expensive, not available everywhere, and in the case of CT scans, they also expose people to radiation. A DXA scan is another method. It is often used to check bone density, but can also provide an estimate of visceral fat. However, DXA scans are not cheap either, and most people do not have easy access to them. This leaves many people stuck. They know visceral fat matters, but they do not have the money, access, or desire to go through complicated medical imaging. That is why scientists became interested in finding a simpler method that people could use in everyday life. The goal was to create a reliable test that does not require expensive equipment, special training, or medical facilities. This is where the simple at-home test for visceral fat comes in. With just a measuring tape, a bathroom scale, and a little bit of math, anyone can get a surprisingly accurate estimate of their visceral fat levels at zero cost. Before going into the details of the test, it helps to understand why ordinary waist measurements alone are not enough. For many years, waist circumference has been used as a general indicator of health risk. A larger waist is usually connected to higher risks of metabolic conditions. But waist circumference has one limitation: it measures everything together. It does not separate the visceral fat inside the abdomen from the subcutaneous fat just under the skin. Two people may have the same waist measurement, but one may carry more visceral fat while the other has more subcutaneous fat. Since visceral fat is the type that causes the most harm to health, it is important to separate the two. Researchers solved this problem by asking a clever question. If waist size includes both visceral and subcutaneous fat, what if we could subtract out the subcutaneous part? That would leave us with a clearer picture of the visceral fat. But how could subcutaneous fat be measured? After testing different body measurements, scientists found that thigh circumference is a strong indicator of subcutaneous fat. Unlike the waist, the thighs do not carry much visceral fat, so their size mainly reflects fat just under the skin. By using thigh circumference together with waist circumference, it becomes possible to estimate how much of the waist size is due to visceral fat rather than subcutaneous fat. The method is simple. You measure your waist at the midpoint between your lowest rib and the top of your hip bone, which is usually around the belly button. You measure your thigh at the thickest part, near the crease where the leg meets the buttock. Both measurements should be taken with a measuring tape that is snug but not pressing into the skin. These two values are then entered into a formula along with your height, weight, age, and gender. The formula calculates an estimated visceral fat area. Studies comparing this method with DXA scans found that the simple waist minus thigh approach was at least as accurate and in some cases even better at predicting visceral fat levels. The results are usually expressed in square centimeters, representing the estimated area of visceral fat. A commonly used cutoff is 130 centimeters. People with values above this number are considered to have excess visceral fat, while those below are generally at lower risk. It is worth noting that this is a strict cutoff, and being slightly above does not mean someone is in immediate danger. It simply suggests that their level of visceral fat is higher than ideal and could increase health risks over time. How to perform the at-home test. Step by step. Now that the idea behind the test is clear, let's go through the process of doing it at home in detail. This is not complicated, but accuracy matters, so it is worth taking the time to do it correctly. The first step is to measure your waist circumference. To do this, stand upright without slouching or sucking in your stomach. Find the top of your hip bone on one side of your body and the bottom of your rib cage. Place the measuring tape around your waist at the point midway between these two landmarks. For most people, this point is near the belly button, though it might be slightly above. Breathe normally and then exhale gently. At the end of the exhale, wrap the tape snugly around your waist. It should be tight enough to stay in place, but not so tight that it digs into the skin. Write down the measurement in centimeters. If your tape only shows inches, you can later convert it into centimeters. Next, measure your thigh circumference. This should be done at the thickest point of the upper thigh, just under the crease where the leg meets the buttock. Stand with feet slightly apart and keep the muscles relaxed. Place the measuring tape around the thigh, again keeping it snug but not pressing into the skin. Record this measurement in centimeters as well. With these two values, you are halfway done. The next step involves adding information about your age, gender, height, and weight. These details help the formula adjust for natural differences in fat distribution. For example, men and women carry fat differently, and fat storage patterns change with age. Height and weight are used to calculate BMI, which further improves accuracy. There are online calculators that handle the math, so you do not have to solve the equation yourself. You simply enter your numbers, and the calculator will give you an estimated visceral fat area in square centimeters. Remember that the important cutoff is 130 centimeters. If your number is below, your visceral fat is likely within a safer range. If your number is above, it may be time to think about lifestyle changes to bring it down. One of the strengths of this test is that it does not just give a number, it can also guide your future decisions. For instance, if you repeat the test every few months while making changes to your diet and exercise routine, you can track whether your visceral fat is decreasing. This is valuable because sometimes the scale alone does not tell the full story. Someone may lose only a few pounds but reduce a significant amount of visceral fat, which is far more important for long-term health. It is also worth mentioning that having a higher thigh circumference is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, larger thighs often indicate more subcutaneous fat, which is less harmful than visceral fat. Some studies even suggest that people with larger thigh circumference may have lower risk of metabolic disease because the fat stored there is not as dangerous. What really matters is the balance between waist and thigh size. A large waist combined with small thighs is more concerning than a large waist with equally large thighs. This is why the formula works so well. It looks at the relationship between the two, not just one number in isolation. If your result shows high visceral fat, do not panic. This is common, especially in modern lifestyles where processed food, lack of movement, and stress all contribute to fat storage in the abdominal area. The good news is that visceral fat is usually easier to lose than subcutaneous fat. With consistent changes in diet, exercise, and daily habits, many people see significant improvements in a matter of months. For example, regular physical activity, reducing added sugars, increasing fiber, and getting enough sleep all help reduce visceral fat. But the first step is awareness, and this at-home test gives you exactly that. Finally, keep in mind that no test is perfect. The formula is an estimate, and while it is supported by research, it should not replace medical advice if you have serious health concerns. Still, for the average person, it is one of the most practical and accurate tools available outside of a medical setting, and the fact that it is free and repeatable makes it even more useful. Now let's discuss some simple home remedies that can help reduce visceral fat. These are practical steps you can try without needing expensive treatments or complicated plans. While there are many strategies out there, we will focus on 3 powerful ones that are easy to start at home and have long-lasting benefits if done consistently. 1. Drinking green tea. Daily. One of the simplest remedies to support visceral fat loss is drinking green tea every day. Green tea has been studied for years because of its natural compounds that help improve metabolism and fat burning. The main ingredient that makes it powerful is called catechin, especially a type known as EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate. This compound helps the body break down stored fat and use it as energy. Unlike some weight loss supplements, green tea is safe, affordable, and easy to include in your daily routine. When you drink green tea regularly, it gently raises your metabolism. That means your body burns slightly more calories throughout the day, even while resting. More importantly, studies show that green tea specifically helps reduce visceral fat. This is likely because the compounds in green tea improve insulin sensitivity and reduce inflammation, both of which are connected to visceral fat storage. Drinking 2 to 3 cups per day is usually enough to see benefits. It's best to have it plain without sugar or cream, because added sugars cancel out its fat-burning effects. You can drink it hot or cold, depending on your preference. Some people even replace soda or sugary drinks with green tea, which not only lowers calorie intake, but also reduces sugar spikes that encourage visceral fat buildup. Another benefit is that green tea provides a mild energy boost without the jitters of coffee. The caffeine in green tea works together with EGCG to enhance fat breakdown during exercise. So if you drink a cup before going for a walk or doing light exercise, you may burn even more fat than usual. Green tea also improves digestion, supports the liver, and provides antioxidants that protect against diseases. These extra health benefits make it more than just a weight loss drink. It becomes part of a healthier lifestyle overall. The key is consistency. 1 or 2 cups once in a while will not make much difference, but daily drinking over weeks and months can help shrink visceral fat while supporting better long-term health. 2. Adding soluble fiber to your diet. Another powerful home remedy for visceral fat is eating more soluble fiber. Fiber is found in plant-based foods, and soluble fiber is a special type that dissolves in water to form a gel-like substance in the stomach. This slows digestion, makes you feel full for longer, and reduces the urge to overeat. But the real magic happens in the gut. Soluble fiber feeds healthy gut bacteria, which play a major role in controlling how much fat we store, especially around the organs. When you eat foods rich in soluble fiber, they help stabilize blood sugar levels. This prevents large spikes and crashes that push the body to store fat in the abdominal area. Stable blood sugar also improves insulin sensitivity, which directly reduces visceral fat storage. Over time, people who eat more fiber tend to carry less fat around their waist, even if their overall weight does not change dramatically. Good sources of soluble fiber include oats, beans, lentils, apples, pears, carrots, flax seeds, and chia seeds. A simple way to start is by having oatmeal for breakfast instead of refined cereals. Adding a spoonful of flaxseed or chia seeds to your meals is another easy step. You can also eat apples or pears as snacks instead of processed foods. These small changes provide fiber that works quietly in the background to lower visceral fat. One study found that for every 10 grams of soluble fiber added to the diet daily, people lost a noticeable amount of visceral fat over 5 years without making any other changes. That is the power of fiber. It does not require extreme diets or fasting. It works steadily as part of a balanced eating pattern. Soluble fiber also reduces hunger naturally. Because it slows digestion, you feel satisfied after eating smaller portions. This prevents late-night snacking and overeating, two common habits that fuel visceral fat growth. The combination of better appetite control, improved gut health, and stable blood sugar makes soluble fiber one of the most effective and natural remedies. The best part is that you do not need supplements or powders. Everyday foods from the kitchen provide plenty of soluble fiber if you include them regularly. Over time, this simple habit not only reduces visceral fat, but also lowers cholesterol, supports digestion, and protects against heart disease. 3. Practicing intermittent fasting at home. A third home remedy that has gained a lot of attention is intermittent fasting. Unlike traditional diets, intermittent fasting does not focus on what you eat, but on when you eat. The idea is to allow the body longer breaks between meals, which encourages it to burn stored fat, including visceral fat. When you eat frequently throughout the day, your body is constantly processing food and using incoming calories for energy. This means it rarely gets the chance to tap into fat reserves. By extending the time between meals, especially overnight, your insulin levels drop and your body starts burning stored fat for fuel. Research shows that visceral fat is one of the first types of fat to decrease with fasting. There are different ways to practice intermittent fasting. One of the simplest is the 16.8 method. In this approach, you fast for 16 hours and eat during an 8-hour window. For example, you might finish dinner at 7 p.m. and not eat again until 11 a.m. the next day. During the fasting period, you can drink water, black coffee, or unsweetened tea, but no calories. Another method is the 5-2 approach, where you eat normally for 5 days a week and have 2 days of reduced calories. The reason intermittent fasting works so well for visceral fat is that it improves insulin sensitivity, lowers inflammation, and increases growth hormone levels, all of which help mobilize fat from deep inside the abdominal cavity. Unlike crash diets, fasting does not usually cause muscle loss when done correctly. In fact, many people find that their energy improves and their appetite naturally adjusts to the new eating pattern. At home, it is easy to start by simply delaying breakfast or finishing dinner earlier. You do not need special foods or supplements. The focus is on giving your body more time to rest and repair between meals. Over time, people often notice their waistline shrinking, even if the scale does not drop dramatically. That is because fasting targets visceral fat more effectively than some other methods. Intermittent fasting also brings additional benefits beyond fat loss. It supports brain health, reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes, and may even improve longevity. While it can take a few days to adjust, many people find it surprisingly simple once their body adapts. The key is to be consistent and not overeat during eating windows. Combined with healthy food choices, intermittent fasting is a powerful way to lower visceral fat naturally and sustainably. That's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and learnt something new. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more content like this. See you in the next one.